That's about how long you're existing in the memory of the people. That's how long you exist in the minds of people if you only do stuff for social media. And frankly, I've never been a fan of it. Greetings and salutations, everybody. I am Josh of Josh T Film, and today's video is pretty much about why you are watching me on this platform. In this particular case, it's probably YouTube. But I want to talk about the benefits of long-form content. Now, when I'm talking about long-form content, sad to say, that's probably not all that long. But I am talking about stuff that is longer than what is intended for your average social media site. So I'm probably talking about stuff in the 3 minutes plus range. And as is the case many times, this came up because of conversations I've been having with my clients. One in particular is in real estate. And she has been reaching out to me more and more because she is sick of seeing what everyone in her field does. Which, from my cursory look of it, has been, house tours on their cell phones, good old vertical video, one of my bugbears, and it tends to just all look the same. And that's not only because people in their fields tend to copy each other, but it's also because of being on social media and algorithms tend to feed you what you've already seen, and therefore you start to believe that this is standards or best practices when it's not. And so I'm working with her and others to instill the virtues of long form content, hence this video. Now I'll say long form content in YouTube interchangeably because that's kind of the origin of it, really. So despite this baby face, I am 33 years old. So I have been on YouTube since its inception. Back when it originally launched, it was kind of a funny Wild West. Even before it was a Wild West, it was kind of just a place that people dumped like videos of them going mountain biking or their cats doing funny stuff, or my personal favorite, it was the place to watch fan subbed anime. That was good stuff. But once it was over that initial proto phase of its development, we started to get our first wave YouTuber, who were the people that saw that, hey, we have this place that we can post videos for free. Because that was the biggest thing. You used to have to buy server space if you wanted to show people videos online, and that could be an affair in the thousands of dollars monthly. But YouTube being this place that you could post for free and people could find it, it started to be a hub of, short filmmaking and just a place where there was no rules. In the case of a lot of people, it was the people who couldn't get into the Hollywood system and found that this is the way that their stuff could be seen. And then you started getting more of your personality driven types, your vloggers, your people who would do insane stuff. And this is just things that carried on to this day. But I'll get a little bit more into that as we go on. I have 4 points that I want to talk about that are the reasons I feel that you should be investing in long form content. The first one, which might be the most beneficial for businesses, is vetting. So if you provide a particular service and people go looking for you online, well, one, I hope they see a website. That's day one. If you only have social media, whole other topic. Get yourself a website. But websites do tend to just be like a brochure, a bit of a text information dump. So a way you can get past this is to start making more videos and long form content, because then that becomes the way that people get to know you before they ever meet you. In one of my previous positions, this was kind of like the driving force of all the video content I made for them, because I worked for a general contractor. And that is a scary thing to go into for most people, because this is a person who's going to have access to your home. They're going to be taking a ton of your money, and you want to know more than like maybe what a Yelp review says. So for them, I took it upon myself to show them as experts in their field. I had the owner constantly doing videos talking about the results of their builds. We would log the builds through, so you saw the work being done, but then we would also always do a video at the end where we showed the final product and then also talked about the value that the home had now gained. So this became an integral part of the vetting process. You had people calling who already kind of knew you and like saw your work and trusted that you were good at your job and got a little bit of your personality, which brings me into my second point. Community and personality. So one of the things that drives me crazy about only doing stuff for social media is the fact that you are incredibly disposable. You are around for the flick of a finger, and this is why the only way to really beat that algorithm is to post an obscene amount of stuff. I remember at one point, in trying to stay ahead of the algorithm for a client, we were posting 3 times a day. The quality of that content was not always good, but you had to bombard the system enough to even get it to be seen because it was so insanely disposable. And also, that wasn't a way to really build trust with clients. So yeah, they saw that your page was active, but so what? So long form content helps to overcome this by building communities. People who check in with you regularly and will often be more interactive on what you put out there versus the stuff you're just blasting at social media for the sake of being active. And a community is also one of the best things you can have for being a profitable business, because community usually means recurring customers. One of my favorite examples of this is a YouTuber who has been on since I was in college. So we're talking the better part of 15 years. Is a dude named Phil DeFranco who started just doing like pop culture news and topical stuff of the day. And he has ridden the wave of YouTube all this time because of being consistent and developing a community. He was kind of the guy who really showed you that you didn't actually need 100 million subscribers to be successful online. You probably needed like 1/100th of that who are willing to pay for anything you do. And that's why he was brilliant. He knew that the people who stayed and liked him were the people who would invest in him, would buy stuff. I bought so much like pop art and t-shirts from him and his company because I felt like I was a part of that community. And when you ran into other people who were also viewers, you instantly started having a conversation because you were all in on something. And it was to the point where I liked that dude so much, I paid for concert tickets to see him do just like a Q&A live. And I feel that's what people should strive to do if you're using the internet as your main promotional tool. So for example, one of the main videos that I do on my channel is I invite you onto set with me. I do the behind the scenes so that you can see me working and knowing like, if we do a project together, this is what it'll be like. See, my skill set and what I bring to you. And hopefully that you see it's kind of fun to work with me, which I do highly recommend. But I advocate for this community and personality approach because you're not going to get your community without having a unique personality. It's very hard sometimes when doing content like this to just fall into copying somebody else. And yes, often copying somebody else might get you the views, but it's not really going to get you the community because, well, you're just a poor facsimile of somebody else. So when doing your long form content, be true to yourself. If you're a bit like wacky and nerdy like I am, well, let that shine through. Yes, your audience may not always get your anime references, but hey, you were true to yourself and people will understand that you're being genuine because people can smell a fake from a mile away. And something I touched on in the previous point is another point I want to bring up, which is longevity. Like I said, with the example of Phil DeFranco and a couple of other people who have been on YouTube for 15 years, when you commit to long form content and people get to know you and people get to watch and want to see the evolution of you, that keeps them in place, keeps you around, keeps you relevant, and people will ride the wave and change with you because yourself, your business, your life is going to change and bring people along to change with you. Going back to Phil DeFranco, because I think he's just a perfect example of this, when I started watching him, he was a guy in his mid-20s. So he did stuff like a guy in his mid-20s. His show included the hot girl or guy of the week. It was equal opportunity. That was good. And then that allowed him to put a hot girl in the thumbnail, and that was the clickbait. And he built a company where he was kind of doing immature frat boy stuff with his group of friends who he had built the business with. And it was a ton of fun. But people grow up, and He stayed on YouTube through becoming a husband and a father, going through financial and business troubles. He stayed on through all of that, and people rode the wave with him because that's human nature and being honest. And because he did that, people went along, and he is still doing YouTube videos and still growing, coming on 2 decades of being online. And the final point I want to bring up for why you should be investing in long form content, well, if you want to do short form content, if you make long form content, you have short form content. You just take your longer videos and chop them up into segments. Particularly if you do kind of talking head stuff like I'm doing now, and you kind of structure your talks into points like I'm doing now, you can chop that up and have it be bits of short form content that you can just blast out there later. And then that in turn will feed back to getting your longer form content seen. So that can be a consideration when you are making long form content, but don't just make short form content. That is disposable. For all the reasons I just talked about, it's the reason that you really want to be leaving that camera on for more than 30 seconds. So I hope that gave you some stuff to think about, and it's truly something that I believe in. Like I said, I've been on YouTube and seen long form content before we even really coined the term content for video online, and I've watched things grow and change, and how this has really remained like one of the best and most consistent things that you can do for yourself online. But if you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me in all the various ways. And if you want to potentially work with me or just see more of some of this long form content, I do more posting on my website, which is www.joshtfilm.com. Nice and easy. Please remember to do all that YouTube-y stuff, and I will